Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. One of the most important of all the Beatitudes. I'll never forget driving around UCSD, and I was getting ready for school, going into college. And for the first time on the radio, I heard George Harrison's My Sweet Lord. And he said in the lyrics, I really want to see you. I really want to know you. Why does it take so long? And I remember sitting there thinking in the car. I was applying for seminary at the time, so I kind of knew I was going to do some college, do seminary, do some college. And I started thinking to myself, you don't see God, George. I don't know if he ever saw God. I highly doubt it. Too many drugs. But it's not a matter of seeing God. And I know in the Beatitudes, Jesus talks about it as see God, but you have to understand again the limit of the language. There was more to it than what we give credit for. It was the only way that Jesus could talk about the whole idea of recognizing God. They didn't have a word for recognizing God, so it came off see God. Pure in heart. So I'm going to talk to you very bluntly in a way that I hope reaches you in some way. I'm going to lose most of my audience here, and I recognize that, but still, it's very important for me to say the things that you need to hear, and even if I'm just planting seeds right now, that's perfectly fine. Most of us live from our genetic heart. It does not belong to me. My genetic heart belongs to Ed and Jean Penn and their ancestry. And all of the emotionality that I feel in my genetic heart is the genetics that my mother and father had, their mothers and fathers had, their grandparents had, all the way down the line. So as I've said to you before, there's a certain disposition, there's a certain frailty to my human heart, and always it is breaking. And the whole object of the game in human terms is not to feel the breakage of the human heart. We're going to talk about that in another segment, but I want to lay some groundwork here. So a lot of what we go through in the course of a day when we are thinking that we're feeling a lot is just emotionality. And it isn't even my emotionality. It belongs to my mother, my father, and their ancestry, the genetic heart. It's also in the cellular level of my body. So I'm feeling the ancestry of my body. I'm feeling the lineage of my body, and I'm feeling it through my emotionality. So this emotionality cannot recognize whatever it is that is God. Now, I'm not the kind of guy that does the biblical God. The direct experience of God is something that you have to have on your own. It is, in my experience, my direct experience of it, that God is love. And when Jesus said God is love, I feel that he was saying the very thing that my genetic heart cannot understand. That God is not a man, not a biblical guy, not a wrath, not a goodness, not any of that. God is simply love. It is the presence of love. And what that exactly is, I can't tell you, because it is not something that my genetic brain, which belongs also to my ancestry, can understand, reason out, or even comprehend. So I stay away from the idea of using the word God. I stay away from the whole thing, but I recognize there is this presence in the universe, this oneness that is the love of this whole life, this energetic of love. And it is stronger than anything I have ever imagined in my life. And when I have felt it and when I have entered into it, it has been something that has completely erased my thinking and completely done away with everything I've ever believed in. Completely removed all of the hostility and the fear and the anger that Greg would like to feel. And now it is something different. With each pulse of my heart, with each beat of it, I feel a sense of oneness. And I can't really explain it to you except to say to you that the heart, the authentic heart, is something called the pure in heart. The genetic heart, that's something that most people will fight to the death for. Many, many lifetimes to fight for the death of their genetic heart. They live as a genetic heart. They breathe as a genetic heart. And it is the genetic heart that makes sense to them in one moment, then later on in life does them in. It betrays them. And they think it's other people betraying them, and it isn't. It isn't the world that will betray you. It isn't people that will betray you. It will be your genetic heart, which cannot see God. It can only see what it wants, what it believes in, what it desires, and what it fears. And that's why we have so much difficulty in this world. I hope you found the uniqueness of my message here on Aspire and that you will help sustain our effort both on radio and here on TV to keep Aspire on the air, to keep it serving humankind. We need your sponsorship to do this. Your sponsorship is what allows us to be here and to serve humankind the way we do. If you're interested, go to the website at aspire.org and go take a look at support. I deeply appreciate it. Now back to Aspire. More than any other condition that Jesus ever talked about in the course of his lifetime was our hardness of heart. That hardness of heart is the genetic heart. So if you're asking yourself the question, how do I attain to the pure in heart? You're going to have to understand the hardness of heart, the crust around it, which is nothing more than opinion and hate and doubt and fear and circumstance, has to be broken. I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of personal heartbreaks in my life. They can come in all sorts of different forms. The death of a parent, the death of a pet, the breakup of a marriage, the sorrow of losing someone you love who died. There's all sorts of things that we go through in the course of our lifetime, human events, that are the source of our heartache, the human heart breaking. Most people look at that and say, that's a bad thing, but it's not. The reason we have human heartbreak is that we might open up our real heart, the pure in heart. If you're wondering how a person becomes pure in their heart, the first part of it is to allow the feeling of human heartbreak and not to try to overcome it, heal it, make it go away, but to learn to really live with human heartbreak. I have learned all through the course of my life, through rejection and the people who have persecuted me and said all sorts of manner of things against me for my teachings or whatever. If you stay in it, if you stay in that heartbreak long enough, all of a sudden, if you don't feel sorry for yourself, something starts to unfold within you. Something beautiful starts to arise in you. And that beauty is your pure in heart. If you're a wise person, you take that moment in your life and you meditate upon it. You open yourself up, you breathe into it, and allow meditation, inner work, to start to develop inside of you. And you'll find that that's when it starts to accelerate, the poor in spirit thing. You'll be even more humble than you ever were. You'll begin to see there is more to mourn about your life, more to have remorse for. And of course, that's when the meekness, the teachability happens. The real teacher here is not Gregory Penn. It isn't the one that stands before you. The real teacher is your heart. And if your heart is made pure through the experience of your meditation, your inner work, your inner process, you will start to see things in an entirely different way. Instead of looking at things personally, you will see them organically. You will start to move back. And if you move back, further and further and further, away from the attachment to your emotionality, that is when you will find substance, meaning. That's when you're going to come to the place where you have an understanding that has nothing to do with logic and reasoning. It has to do with the ebb and the flow of compassion. Compassion is one of the most important qualities you and I will ever know. True compassion is not feeling sorry for someone and saying, oh, I feel bad for you. I could feel what you're feeling because I wouldn't want to go through it. That has nothing to do with compassion. Authentic compassion is simply this: to see the struggle that somebody else is making, just like you're making, and to understand that that struggle is noble if they are seeking to awaken to love. This is a very difficult thing for most of us to achieve because we're not interested in compassion and we're not interested in forgiveness. People will say, oh, I forgive you, but you know that's not true. People will ask for forgiveness, but we know we don't forgive them because of our hardness of heart. In the pure in heart modality, you start to see everybody struggling. And why curse them? Why hurt them? Why not help them? And you can help them in many ways by showing mercy and kindness to them, which are the highest forms of the heart you will ever know. Blessed are the pure in heart. It means to sit there and to not plea for understanding, not beg for it, but to recognize it. You and I are being helped every single moment of our life. There isn't one single moment in your life that you are lost or alone. Every moment is important, and every moment holds significant meaning, substance to your own life. When you are pure in heart, you can recognize God in everything. Not as a man, not as the biblical dude, but as that presence that is the basic throb of life itself, the heartbeat of life. And it is an energy, a presence that is an energy that exceeds the way the human mind can function and even think. So when you're more interested in love than you are in what you can think, when you're no longer mesmerized with your thoughts and tantalized by them, you'll be able to see the meaning of what it is to know nothing. If you didn't get everything I was talking about here on the program, you can download the whole series from the website at aspire.org. And for those of you who are sponsors, you can download them for free. The donation for them goes to purchase more airtime of our radio and our TV program, and it is considered, as I said, a donation. Order yours today, and if you're a sponsor, download them right away. Thanks for watching. Now back to Aspire. Life means nothing unless I recognize the universe and everything. Life means nothing unless I recognize the order of life in everything. Life means nothing unless I understand the awakening of love in me. And when I have a me, a Greg, an I, and a you, then all of that is impossible. So what we must do is begin to understand that it is only the heart that matters in the face of life. And when I am living from the pure in heart, the face of life changes. I can recognize in everything the true mercy of love, the true grace that is life itself. And I'm no longer projecting on life from my psychology, my Greg, my right, my wrong, my good and bad upon anyone or anything. And once that has been achieved in any way, shape, or form throughout my life, meaning occurs. This is why we meditate. We meditate not that we may know maybe, new thoughts or have better thoughts or have a better life. That's not what it's for. It's for awakening. And when we start to awaken, consciousness begins to bloom. Thoughts decrease. They start to fall away like leaves in the fall. And we start to recognize there is only the fruit that lives there. You are the process of life itself. There is no you and God. There is no you and love. There is just the process of life itself as it unfolds through consciousness. That is the ability to have the pure in heart and to recognize what it means to see the process of life for what it is. In doing this, we encounter impermanence. We encounter all sorts of different various laws, the law of cause and effect. With what measure you meet, it will be given to you. You start to recognize all these things are working for you. But the one big one is karma. You will recognize your own karma and what it's really all about. Karma is the presence of how you and I have imprinted our life in and throughout many a lifetime. You are in a continuum. I am a continuum. We are not just a person here. We are a continuum of life that goes on and on and on endlessly. And we can't recognize that with our brain. We can't recognize that with physics. You can only recognize it when you go to your heart and you are absolutely what Jesus called pure in heart. It is in that purity we find the loving kindness to be able to see things intelligently, to see things as they are born, as they live, as they rise, as they fall. Then they're born again, they live, they rise, they fall. And instead of thinking about it, we witness it. It is in that witnessing of how things come together, fall away, that we find the rhythm of life, that we see the meaning of our life. And it has nothing at all to do with the significance of having a Greg or a me or an I or a you. Now we understand space. We understand no thingness. We are not interested in trying to grab the now. There is no such thing as the now. The moment you say the word now, it's gone. There is the presence. There is just this. And this just this is the ebb and flow of the heart. Life is the beat of the heart. Life is the heart. Life is the breath of the heart. And the recognition that I have to realize what that is all about is what living is. So when we think in terms of broken hearts, hardness of heart, the difficulty of living as we do, where we only live for what we can get, what we want, we lose the meaning and the significance of each and everything that we're doing. What a blessing. What a powerful thing to be able to look at everything in this world, and I mean everything, and recognize the process of love that is involved. That everything is a process of love. And no matter what I think I'm seeing, the rise or the fall of something in this world, where it saddens me or it upsets me or it takes me away from my consciousness, if I can come back to it and just watch and observe, I will see everything has meaning and everything is doing just what it's doing perfectly as it is doing it. And when I am willing to no longer put an assignment on that, a consequence on that, a conclusion to that, when I am no longer enamored with the idea of my thinking, then I can witness what's really happening. And that oneness is what's really happening. And that, my friend, is the meaning of love. It is life surging through us. Wanting nothing with all of my heart, I have come to that place where love can finally be recognized and felt. I hope this helped. Please forgive me. Namaste.